details. Basically, because is mainly about his disappearance. So there's a lot we can talk about Thakur Haridas, but because the event that took place was his disappearance, so we're mainly going to talk about his disappearance, but I'll give you the information a little bit ahead, and after that also what happened. Okay, so exactly about him. He was basically born in a Mohammedan family. So he was considered, he himself considered himself to be a Malacha, coming from a Yamana family. But he was a very, very great associate devotee of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He used to chant 3 lakh names of the Lord every day. So that is like all 24 hours he was engaged in chanting of the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So now we have details in the book Chaitanya Charitamrita and Chaitanya Bhagavat about Haridas Thakur and his transcendental pastimes. So many leelas are described there. Now, from those books only, we are going to study about the way he left. Because as we said, the festival that we celebrated was his disappearance. So he was known as Nitya Siddha Parashad. Okay, Nitya Siddha Parashad means, Nitya means eternal. So he was an eternal, perfect associate of the Lord. And it is only by the mercy of the Lord and desire of the Lord that he came down here in this material world, mainly to deliver the conditioned souls by giving them the importance of chanting the holy name. So he was basically, what happened was, okay, let's go back to the pastime of Sri Krishna. When Sri Krishna was very little, when he appeared as a baby in this material world in Vrindavan Dham, so we all know that he was a cowherd boy and he was tending the cows. He used to herd the cows. So one such incident took place where he was, along with all his cowherd friends, he was there herding the cows in the forest of Vrindavan. And they were having a picnic, a potluck kind of a picnic going on, where Krishna was enjoying with his friends. And then they heard a very strange noise, all the boys, and they got a little terrified. So Krishna asked them to stay back and continue enjoying their lunch prasadam. In the meanwhile, he wanted to go and check who was trying to bother them. When this happened, Lord Brahma was watching from above, and he also considered Lord Krishna to be a cowherd boy. In the sense, he was doubting the supremacy of the Lord in the form of a little boy, a little cowherd boy. So he had that doubt for a second, and then he thought, let me test him. And so we know the whole pastime of Brahma Vimohan Leela took place. He was bewildered. How was he bewildered? Because when Krishna went to check on the noise, what was going on, that's when actually this was a noise coming from the calves and the cows, because they had gone further to graze the grass. Okay, so the cowherd boys, they didn't have cows then. They had little calves. They were little boys, right? So they got a little scared that the little calves had gone a little further from where they were enjoying the lunch prasadam, and so they wanted to go and check as to where they were. So Krishna asked them to relax and enjoy, and he said, I'll go in the meanwhile and check where are they. So he basically went to see where the calves were, and that's when Lord Brahma came, and he basically carried away all the cowherd boys with him. And for him, we have a time difference, so he thought that he'll just go and put them somewhere safe and come back and see, he would come back to see Krishna's reaction. And all this thing, from Brahma's calculation, which was a moment for him, it ended up being 1 year for us. So now Lord Brahma has gone with these cowherd boys, and there comes Krishna back, and he sees that none of the cowherd boys are there. So he understood. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he immediately understood that Lord Brahma was up to something. So he thought, okay, never mind. What he did was he expanded himself into that many number of cowherd boys who were taken away by Lord Brahma. And then so-called one moment of Lord Brahma, which was his one moment, was 1 year for us, from the earthly timing. So when Lord Brahma came back, he was completely bewildered by seeing the same cowherd boys playing with Sri Krishna. So he was wondering, I just left them in the cave and now they are back here. How is it possible? And he got so confused. Sometimes he was seeing Krishna expanded in so many forms as cowherd boys. Sometimes he was seeing the same cowherd boys. He just could not understand, and that's when he completely thoroughly understood the supremacy of the Lord, and he begged forgiveness from the Lord for doubting his supremacy. But then that is the time when he wanted the Lord to punish him. Now the Lord, obviously, he's most merciful. How is he going to punish his devotee? Lord Brahma is his very big devotee. But then Lord Brahma was very insistent that no, I have to be punished because how could I doubt my own worshipable Lord? So then Lord told him, okay, in that case. So now why was this? Because Lord Brahma was there were multiple things that were happening. So there was a lack of humility. He was considering himself to be superior. So to be humble, he himself asked for this punishment, that he wanted to be born in a very low family. But then he didn't want to forget the Supreme Lord. So that's what the blessing he got. And Lord Krishna blessed him that when I come as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then you will come as Thakur Haridas, but you will be born in a Mlecha family. So then we all know that Haridas Thakur, because he was born in a Mohammedan family, it was very, very, very difficult for him to chant the holy names of the Lord, because um, the Muslims, they used to consider Allah to be the Supreme Lord. They never considered Lord Krishna to be the Supreme Lord. And Haridas Thakur, coming from their background, they didn't want him to worship or chant the names of anybody other than Allah. But then Thakur Haridas, he didn't believe in all that. He knew that there's only one Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that's Lord Krishna, and he wanted to continue chanting. Because of that reason, he had to go through so many problems just because he wanted to chant the holy names of the Lord. So the lesson that we learn from this part is that we should be very, 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 very thankful to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that not only has he given us a chance to remember him and chant his holy names, but also the fact that we can chant freely. There's nobody who's stopping us from chanting the holy names. Unlike Thakur Haridas, he was beaten in 21 marketplaces, to the extent that he was thrown in the water when he just lay dead. He was not dead actually, but that's how he was so tired. So many atrocities he went through. But we take for granted this treasure, of pleasure of chanting the holy name without any difficulties, and we still don't want to. So anyway, so then what happened was, now, after going through all this, so this is just a part of his life. Basically what I was trying to tell you was that he himself is Lord Brahma, who wanted to repent for his misdoings, and that's how he appeared as Thakur Haridas. And the best part was that he did not forget the supremacy of the Lord, and he did worship the Lord, but facing so many problems, because that's the penance he wanted to make for doubting Krishna when he came as Krishna on the material planet. So now when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in Jagannath Puri, so we know that, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was on this planet for 48 years, 24 years. He for 24 years he was a grahastha, and then for the latter 24 years he was a sannyasi. Of those 6 years he was in South India preaching, and rest of the 18 years he was in Jagannath Puri. That's when he met, and that's where Thakur Haridas was also. So in Jagannath Puri Dham, we still have the Bhajan Kutir of Thakur Haridas. He that is in a under a tree which is called the Bakul tree, and this Bakul tree is known as Siddha Bakul. Siddha means perfection, perfect Bakul tree. Why perfect Bakul tree? Because as we discussed that Thakur Haridas used to chant 3 lakh names of the Supreme Lord every day, and he didn't care about the weather, rain or shine, he would. One time he was chanting these holy names. Mahaprabhu saw him chanting these holy names in scorching heat of the sun, and Mahaprabhu felt very much compassion for him. So what he did was, he, with his own lotus hands, he sowed the seed of a bakul tree, and immediately, instantly, the seed sprouted into a full-fleshed bakul tree. Now, because it was touched by the lotus hands of the Supreme Lord, it became the Siddha tree. That is why it is still there. It's still existing and is not. So there's no. It's still full green and nice tree. In pretty much in its the way they say, it's all green and lush, and it's not a dried tree. Why? Because it was touched by the lotus hands of Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu himself had sowed the seed of this bakula tree. So, and also the reason for it being siddha is it is hollow. The inner portion of the tree is hollow. Generally, when you have trees, the ants and everybody, when it grows old, so all these small insects and bugs and ants, they eat the inner part of the tree, but this is hollow from inside. So it is eternal. It is siddha bakula. Okay. So then there he started staying in that. There was a cottage, and Namacharya, that is Mahaprabhu, he started chanting there for 24 hours, and every day 3 lakh names of the Lord. He never used to sleep. He never used to be bothered by the sleeping and eating necessities of the human body. The reason is because he had an eternal body. He had gotten the Siddha Deha, that is a spiritual body. It was not a material body. Generally the material body has so many demands: eating, sleeping, mating, depending. These are the 4 types of necessities for a human body. But human body in the sense material body. But his was a Siddha Deha. It was an eternal body, a spiritual body. And the spiritual body, there is no such need. So he was able to chant for so long, every single day. So Mahaprabhu, he came to spread the Sankirtan movement. He came to tell us how to chant. That was the only way, Hare Nam, Eva Kevalam, Kalau Nasteva, Gatiranyatha. So in this Yuga, Kali Yuga, the only way, chanting is the only way, So Mahaprabhu, he gave us this teaching, and Thakur Haridas actually lived up to this teaching. So one time what happened was Mahaprabhu, the teaching of Mahaprabhu is Ahar Nisha Chinta Krishna Balaha Vadane, which means Ahar Nisha means day and night. Chinta yani to think of Krishna. Balaha Vadane matlab you chant the holy name. So this is the teaching that Mahaprabhu gave, and Thakur Haridas lived up to this teaching. Now Mahaprabhu had a personal servant by the name of Govinda. So every day he used to bring Jagannath's Mahaprasad for Thakur Haridas, which was sent by Mahaprabhu himself. In fact, Mahaprabhu used to come every day and visit, give his darshan to Thakur Haridas. And Thakur Haridas used to say he never used to go to temple, Thakur Haridas. Why? Because Thakur Haridas used to say, oh, I am a Malecha, I'm a Yavana, I am so very degraded. How can I go to the temple? I don't have the right to go there. So he never went there. So Mahaprabhu said, okay, you stay here. You look at Chakra. at the top of the temple, and you will have darshan of Jagannath, and Mahaprabhu is Jagannath himself. So Mahaprabhu is Sachala Jagannath, and Achala Jagannath is in the temple. So, when we go to Puri, due to some old traditions, not everybody is allowed in the temple. Because of that, Mahaprabhu being Jagannath himself, and Jagannath is the most merciful form of the Lord. So right outside the temple, not that you have to go inside, from outside itself, you can see a deity, an archer of Jagannath, which is called Patita Pavan. That is, the Patita Pavan word means the deliverer of the fallen. That is what Jagannath is. So all the people who cannot, for whatever reasons, cannot get entry into Jagannath Puri, if they stand outside one of the doors, one of the gates of Jagannath Puri temple, they can get darshan of Patita Pavan Jagannath. So one thing is that. Second thing, chakra is, chakra also represents as good as being taking darshan of the Supreme Lord. So if you're not able to enter Jagannath Puri temple for whatever reason, if you get the darshan of the chakra which is on top of the temple, it is as good as getting darshan of Jagannath. Okay, two things. Then third thing, Mahaprasad. We know Mahaprasadam is also non-different from the Supreme Lord. So if you are fortunate enough to honor the Mahaprasadam of Jagannath, then it is as good as getting darshan of Jagannath. Then, up to to sum up all of this, once in a year he comes out of his temple in the Rath Yatra. He's so merciful that all the people who are not allowed to go inside the temple, he comes out to give darshan to them. So that is Rath Yatra. So these are the four ways where people like Muslim people are not allowed there, or Western bodies are not allowed there. So they can get darshan of Jagannath in these four forms. Now, Haridas Thakur had an additional fifth privilege, which was Mahaprabhu himself coming and giving darshan to him every single day. So right before he would go to the sea to take his bath, he would come and give darshan to Thakur Haridas, because as we discussed, Mahaprabhu is none other than Jagannath. So Jagannath inside the temple is Achala Jagannath, non-moving Jagannath, and Mahaprabhu is Sachala Jagannath. So this was the privilege that was given to Thakur Haridas. Why? We have to understand, because Thakur Haridas is a very, very dear devotee of the Lord. So the point is, the way Thakur Haridas served Mahaprabhu. So Mahaprabhu felt the need of giving him the darshan, of which Thakur Haridas was always anxious and always desired to have darshan of Jagannath. So even though he did not get darshan of Achala Jagannath, he got darshan of Sachala Jagannath every single day. So this is what we learn from this part, is that we should not be anxious to see the Lord, but we should be anxious to serve him in a way that Lord wants to see us, So he is bound by the love, as was the case in Thakur Haridas. So when Govinda, every day he would bring Mahaprasadam sent by Mahaprabhu of Jagannath to Thakur Haridas. One day when he came with the Mahaprasad to Thakur Haridas, he saw that Thakur Haridas was laying down and he was chanting with a very feeble, very low voice. And when he saw Mahaprasad, he immediately paid respects to Mahaprasad. And he took only one grain to honor Mahaprasad. Then another day, Mahaprabhu came and he asked Thakur Haridas, "Is everything okay with you?" So Thakur Haridas replied, "My body is all right, but my mind and intelligence are sick." So Mahaprabhu said, "What is that? Do you have any disease?" So Thakur Haridas said, "Yes, my disease is that I'm not able to complete my rounds these days." So basically, what was bothering him was that he was not able to chant 3 lakh names every day. We barely make it 16. And for him, 3 lakhs he was not able to do, and that is what was making him so sad. So Mahaprabhu told him, you have already gotten Siddha De, you have a spiritual body. You don't have to worry about sadhana bhakti. You, because of your health conditions, please cut down your number of rounds. So Haridas Thakur, he was very disturbed. He said, I have only one request to make, Mahaprabhu. Somehow I have a feeling that you are about to wind up your pastimes in this material world. My only humble request is, please, please let me hold your lotus feet in my hand, put it on my heart, and let me look at your lotus face with concentrated attention, without blinking, and utter on my lips Shri Krishna Chaitanya. And that is when I want to disappear. So this is my desire. Please fulfill it. So because Thakur Haridas had understood that Mahaprabhu is about to wind up his earthly pastimes, so then Mahaprabhu said, it is going to be very difficult for me to live without you. And Thakur Haridas said, it is going to be more difficult for me to live without you. Please let me go before you disappear. I can't stay here. And hearing that, because we know Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself, who is, Bhaktavatsala, who is very, who basically is bound by the love of his devotees. He is basically supremely independent. But when it comes to his devotees, he says, I have no independence. And I am bound by the love of my devotees. And so he agreed. He agreed to let Thakur Haridas live in this manner, because whatever the devotee desires, the Lord grants it immediately. So at that very particular moment, Mahaprabhu got up and he left. He did not say anything. But then next day, after Jagannath Darshan, he again came to his bhajan kutir, and he was surrounded with devotees who were chanting the Mahamantra and doing kirtan. And Mahaprabhu, he glorified Haridas Thakur. Hearing his glories from the mouth of Mahaprabhu, all the devotees, they bowed down and took the dust of the lotus feet of Thakur Haridas. And then Thakur Haridas, for the last time, he sat down just where next to the lotus feet of Mahaprabhu. He caught hold of his lotus feet and put it on his heart. And he gazed at the lotus face of Mahaprabhu and uttered Shri Krishna Chaitanya. And this name he uttered, and then he disappeared. All the Vaishnavas who were present there thought that Thakur Haridas, his passing away seemed to them like that of Bhishma Dev. If you remember, Bhishma Dev from Mahabharata, he left his body because he had the boon of Ichha Mrityu. Ichha Mrityu means he could leave whenever he desired to. He had that boon, and till the end, for he was lying on the bed of arrows. Why? What was he waiting for? It is explained that he was waiting for the right time, which was Uttarayanam. What is Uttarayanam? It is basically when the sun passes in the northern side. But our acharyas explain in the scriptures that Uttarayanam is another name of Krishna. Why? Because Uttara is the mother of Maharaj Parikshit, and one who took shelter momentarily of the womb of Uttara to protect Parikshit Maharaj is Uttarayanam. That is Sri Krishna. So that is what Bhishma Dev was waiting for. He was waiting, and when Lord Krishna came along with Pandavas to meet him, that's when, after instructing Yudhishthira Maharaj, Bhishma Dev left. So he had the blessing, the boon of Ichamrityu, and here passing of Haridas Thakur reminded them of the same episode, because Thakur Haridas also desired to leave, and he left, just as Bhishma Dev, he left when he desired to leave. So Thakur Haridas also, he left when he desired to leave, right in front of, holding the lotus feet of Mahaprabhu to his heart. That's when he left. So then, his transcendental body was taken to the shore by Mahaprabhu himself. He bathed him, and then Mahaprabhu declared that from this day, this place where there is Samadhi of Thakur Haridas on the seashore is the Tirtha, and that became the Tirtha. And all the Vaishnavas, they took water. Actually, now there is a proper mandir, this Samadhi mandir. So for so many years, there was the Samadhi there, but no mandir. And then one charitable person came and he built a Samadhi mandir right at the seashore where he was put into Samadhi by Mahaprabhu himself. So then all the Vaishnavas, along with Mahaprabhu while chanting, they all circumambulated the Samadhi of Thakur Haridas, and dancing along Mahaprabhu, they went to the Lion Gate of Jagannath temple. Now, as we discussed, that either the Vaishnava is living or he leaves, it is a reason for celebration. So, Mahaprabhu himself wanted to perform a festival for the disappearance of Thakur Haridas, and Mahaprabhu, he himself went to all the people who were selling prasadam there, and he begged them, and he collected a huge amount, and then he performed a great festival, and he fed all the Vaishnavas Mahaprasad of Jagannath. So he himself did this with his own hands. Now we can imagine how very special Thakur Haridas is. So he did this with his own hands. Mahaprabhu, he accepted prasadam in the end when everybody else was done, and he was crying in separation of Thakur Haridas. So actually, once, Mahaprabhu asked Ramananda Rai this question, that what is the greatest or the acute grief? So to that, Ramananda Rai responded, Bhakta Viraha Dukha. That means separation from a very dear devotee is the greatest pain that a devotee can feel. And that's exactly what Mahaprabhu was feeling from separation of Thakur Haridas. So when Haridas Thakur, Mahaprabhu said, when he wanted to leave, I could not stop him because I have no power. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself, and he's supremely independent, and he's saying, I have no independence. I admit my defeat. I am powerless. This is why? Because he is Bhakt Vatsala. This is a brief description of Thakur Haridas' disappearance. So when one speaks and hears Krishna Katha daily, the contaminations in the heart are accumulated, they become cleansed. The first verse of Shishtashtakam given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Cheto Darpan Marjanam, this is what it talks about, that how chanting cleans all the dust on the mirror of your heart. So we should actually, on, days like appearances and disappearance, especially beg for the mercy of these Vaishnavas, because it is only by their mercy can we attain perfection. Otherwise, there is hardly any scope for degraded and fallen souls like ourselves. Now, in regard to why was he addressed as Namacharya, so you know what Namacharya, Nam Acharya, Nam Ka Acharya, that means the teacher of chanting of the holy name. So he taught by his example how to chant the holy name. It was 24 hours a day. He would chant 3 lakh names. 1 lakh he would chant very loudly so that everybody who could hear, could be delivered, be it insects or plants or anybody around him, any living entity. So it was loud enough that people and insects and bugs and living entities around him could hear. Then 1 lakh names he would chant as loud as he could hear, basically. And 1 lakh names he would do mansik, mental chanting, which meant that he wouldn't chant loudly, but then his tongue definitely was vibrating in his mouth. So we so imagine now, 1,000 or 2,000 years down the line, when Kali Yuga is going to be more prominent and things will get worse. So which limb of bhakti can we take shelter of? It's only chanting, because the way things will go in Kali Yuga, as described in Srimad Bhagavatam and other scriptures, it won't be easy to have temples or deity worship or, Archavigra, and if people see you with kanti and tilak, we might end up facing some difficulties, because based on these so-called religious riots, people are a little messed up in the Kali Yuga. So what limb of bhakti are we going to take shelter of? Only chanting, and that too the mental chanting, because people are going to object with passing time. And one time His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj, he was explaining in his lecture, he was sharing this thing in his lecture, that when Srila Prabhupada was about to leave this planet, that time His Holiness Bhakti Charu Maharaj was his personal caretaker. And he was in Vrindavan. And then, one of his godbrothers, Srila Prabhupada's godbrothers, he came to see Srila Prabhupada. And Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj was obviously, everybody was very emotional and disturbed at that time. So he told godbrother of Srila Prabhupada that my Guru Maharaj spent all his life teaching us how to chant the holy name constantly. So at the time of a person leaving, he's able to think about the holy name and is able to chant. I'm paraphrasing, not exact these words, but this is what he was saying, that but I don't see his mouth moving in terms of chanting, and I'm very worried. He was very genuinely concerned. So then the god brother of Srila Prabhupada told Bhakti Charu Maharaj, do not worry, just give Srila Prabhupada some Charnamrit. And when he gave, when he offered Charnamrit to Srila Prabhupada opened his mouth a little bit, and Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj was able to give some Charnamrit to Srila Prabhupada. And when he opened his mouth to honor Charnamrit, he saw that the tongue of Srila Prabhupada was still vibrating in chanting of the holy name. So then Srila Prabhupada's spiritual master told Bhakti Charu Maharaj that I did not ask you to give Charnamrit because your Guru Maharaj needs Charnamrit. I told you to give him Charnamrit so that you could see that what he taught you all his life is what he's living, even at this moment. So hearing this, I really had goosebumps, because I was thinking, wow, this is like something amazing out of this world. And even nobody is stopping you. So even if difficulties come over and you're not able to hold your beat back physically, or wear kanthi or wear tilak, in future, whenever it would happen, but we can definitely chant in our mouth. Nobody is going to open our mouth and see what we are doing. So just because the circumstances are not favorable doesn't mean we'll stop chanting or we'll give up on chanting of the holy name. That is something we should not even think about. So we have to make our chanting priority. It should be, because it is our only constant companion. And if we invest our time in chanting is not different from Krishna, then Krishna is going to invest his time in us. So it is very, very important to chant. For one of the reasons also, because chanting can be done anytime, anywhere, anyhow. There is no condition for it. Chanting is something that purifies us, just like, so if you spill something, if you spill juice and you take a piece of cloth and you wipe it, the cloth is going to become dirty and the floor will become clean. But with chanting, it is not so. If you've seen the sun, the rays of the sun, the sunlight, then it falls even on something as filthy as urine, it is evaporated, but the sun is not affected by it. It is as pure, as potent as ever, but that place has also become clean. So that is what chanting does to us. It cleans our heart, but it is not contaminated. It in fact makes the place where chanting is going on pure, very pure. That is why 24/7 chanting should go on, either in the form of kirtan or in the form of japa or in the form of Krishna katha in your house for purification. It is very, very important. So this is one pastime that I heard, and I was very amazed when I heard this. It's like, and actually Mahaprabhu, he was very, very disturbed when Thakur Haridas left, in fact, he was at one point he was saying that the fishes in the water are better than I am. I am more fallen than them. So the devotees asked, why do you say that? So he said, because the fishes, when they are taken out of the waters are blue in color, and fishes generally are the golden fishes that they're talking about. So when the golden fishes are taken out of the water, they prefer to die. But look at me, because he was Gaura Chandra, and I am away from Shama Sundar, who is again blue in complexion. So he's saying, and look at me, I'm still here, and nothing has happened to me. That means I have no scent of bhakti. And Thakur Haridas also left him. So basically, the price that we pay to get Krishna is, we should always be humble enough to understand that we don't deserve it. We just don't deserve it. It is completely by the mercy of Guru and Gauranga that we are getting whatever bhakti we have, or whatever service, we're able to do. Bhakti, only Krishna knows how much we have. We should always have this feeling that we don't deserve it. But at the same time, we should have a very strong desire to get it. So that kind of desire Thakur Haridas had, he had both. Generally, if you see somebody, people like us who are trying to become devotees, we may have a very strong desire, but we don't deserve it. Or you may find somebody who's very deserving, but he may not have the desire, to serve the Lord like that. So both, the combination of both, the desire to have it and the humility to understand that we don't deserve it, Thakur Haridas had both. So we can all pray to Mahaprabhu. And one more amazing thing I can tell you, that why is it that we worship Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, or we are rather than Radha and Krishna? The reason being is, we all know that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a combined form of Sri Radha and Sri Krishna. So he's very, 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 very merciful. So we know that Mahaprabhu doesn't take offenses, whereas we have to be very, very careful with the worship of Sri Radha and Krishna. Now, how is he merciful? Exactly. So when Sri Krishna appeared on this planet, in this material world, he was not happy, for the simple reason that he was not able to experience the Radha Bhav. To understand that Radha Bhav, that was one of the inner reasons why he appeared as Mahaprabhu. Okay. Now, Mahaprabhu was always happy, always in bliss, chanting and dancing and feasting and fasting. That was his Sankirtan, was his life. So he was always in bliss. Now, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sees, so you say you have a friend who is sad. Say you're sad and your friend is happy to see you sad, then he's not a true friend. But if you're happy and your friend is happy for you, then you know that he's a true friend. Now, for such a true friend, you would want to share everything that you have, everything precious that you have. Similarly, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because Krishna was not happy when he came, because he was not able to, in that Leela, that was a Leela, I mean, Krishna knows everything, but his Leela was that he was not able to relish the Radha Bhav as Krishna. So he came as Mahaprabhu, where he was very happy. Now, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sees that we are happy worshipping him as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who's happy, so then he befriends us basically, and he gives us what he has the best, which is, what did Mahaprabhu come for? Krishna Prem. So then we end up getting Krishna Prem if we worship Mahaprabhu. Not that we don't get Krishna Prem if we worship Radha Krishna, but because Mahaprabhu is very, very merciful, this is how the mercy flows. So at this note, I'll end here because I really have to go somewhere and I am so sorry. But if you have any questions, I can really take quick. All right. So I think we'll end here and I am going to see you all next week. Okay?
Okay, thank you, Mataji. Bye. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Bye.
Hare. Bye bye.